I want to go back to something you said on Tuesday. You said, I think all of us know the Electoral College needs to go. But the campaign came out later that night, and they said that's not their stance.
My position is the campaign's position.
At least it is now, because he made a sort of bold statement about the future, perhaps, of the Electoral College, and then maybe he didn't run it past them first, and they don't agree, so his position is rapidly changing, and we're gonna try to catch you up. So what they're referring to there is that Tim Walz was at a closed-door fundraiser at Gavin Newsom's private residence, which is a sentence that will cause Anna Kasparian's head to explode. I think entirely. God only knows what happened there and who was there and how much money was raised. But anyway, and he had said at that point, I think all of us know the Electoral College needs to go. We need national popular vote, but that's not the world we live in. So we need to win Beaver County, Pennsylvania. We need to be able to go into York, Pennsylvania and win. We need to be in Western Wisconsin and win. We need to be in Reno, Nevada and win. And by the way, as calls for the end of the Electoral College goes, that was not exactly the most fire-breathing. He's like, we all know that it should go in that direction, and we're gonna provide you the evidence that, yeah, most people do think that's the direction we should go in. But he says that's not the world we live in. And then he laid out that we need to be able to compete in these areas. So, like, politically, it's a very pragmatic statement. But regardless, he is apparently backing off because a couple of days ago, a campaign spokesperson said that Walz was, quote, commenting to a crowd of strong supporters about how the campaign is built to win 270 electoral votes, which is admittedly kind of what he was doing. But they always try to like finesse away the point of the question. Yeah, he said that. He also talked about the Electoral College. And so then the backtrack has to go into full effect, and here it is.
He said, I think all of us know the Electoral College needs to go. But the campaign came out later that night, and they said that's not their stance.
Well, it's not the campaign's position. And the point I'm trying to make is that there's folks that feel every vote must count in every state. And I think some of folks feel that's not the case. Our campaign does that. And the point I'm saying is I'm in 5 states in 2 days. We're out there making the case that the campaign's position is clear, that that's not their position. Their position and my position is to make sure that everybody understands their vote, no matter what state they're in, matters.
So that's something that you and Vice President Harris disagree on?
I have spoken about it in the past, that she's been very clear on this, and the campaign and my position is the campaign's position.
Okay, so they're not pushing for it, which, as we're gonna show you, maybe they should actually, because the polling is pretty clear. And also, do they disagree about it? Well, maybe now. If you broaden the timeline, they don't necessarily disagree, because back in 2019, Harris said that she was open to the discussion around abolishing the Electoral College. And when you ask the people, not that they matter, particularly in a country that has an Electoral College, 63% say that the president should be elected according to the popular vote. 35% say the Electoral College. And look, I disagree with the 35%, but I do want to give them credit for taking a pragmatic position, because I assume the vast majority of that 35% is a significant chunk of the Republican Party who realizes that this is the only chance they have of ever winning the presidency. So they better keep the Electoral College, because they're certainly not going to change to try to persuade people with new policies or new values or anything. They instead just game the system that is set up to benefit them. And they've done quite well over the past few decades with that. Anyway, it's not like it's gonna happen anytime soon anyway, but maybe having the conversation could at least show people that you agree with them a bit.
No, this is why I say, and I know they get offended because they're powerful and you're not allowed to criticize powerful people, but there's some intensely dumb people running this campaign. And remember, guys, in the beginning when she first came out, I said she was doing a terrific job. Being biased against Kamala Harris doesn't make any sense at all. I'm gonna vote for Kamala Harris. I can't stand Donald Trump. I think he's a danger to everyone around him in the entire country. But when she was doing economically populist things, when she was picking Tim Walz, she was surging, going up. You all saw it with your own eyes. The boogeyman Cenk says something honest about Democrats. But remember when I was saying they were doing the right things, and I was right. And her poll numbers went up dramatically. And she had the lead. Now she's losing the lead, and she's already lost the lead. So why would you say that you're for the Electoral College and you're a Democrat? How does that make any sense? I literally cannot understand or fathom any logic to it. So I'm stretching and stretching, and I come up with, do they think they're going to offend Republican voters in swing states who love the Electoral College but are going to vote for Kamala Harris? Is that a voter that exists? Is that a voter that exists? I mean, how brain dead do you have to be to think, oh no, the Dick Cheney supporters in the suburbs who are Republicans love the Electoral College and they think it's an important part of our republic. But you know what? But they're gonna vote for Kamala Harris. That's why we're saying rah, Electoral College. If you don't know, guys, and look, if this is not your job, it's not your job to know it, but it is their job to know it. Joe Biden barely won the Electoral College in 2020 by 43,000 votes in 3 swing states, almost lost. But in the popular vote, he won by 7 million. In the popular vote, he won by 4.5%. In this day and age, 4.5% is gigantic. So because of the Electoral College, the Democratic candidate is in a 4 to 5 point deficit when we start. That is not a democracy. It is like on the just principled ideological grounds. Of course you should be against the Electoral College. But if you're a Democrat, you have to be the dumbest person alive to say, oh yeah, I should have to win by 5 points in order to win. They should get a 7 million vote advantage for no apparent reason. Who are, like, if I was running the campaign and some dumbass came up with this idea and made Tim Walz apologize and backtrack for having the logical and obviously correct position, I would fire that person in a second. Like she has these morons left over from the Biden campaign that she had to adopt. Come on, fire them already. For God's sake, fire them before they destroy this country by handing it. They were trying to hand it to Trump when Biden was the candidate. Now they're trying to hand it to Trump when Kamala Harris is the candidate. Fire them. Will you, for God's sake, get back to what was working? Say, you know what? Say Cenk is evil, progressives are evil, Bernie's evil. Say whatever the goddamn thing you want to say about us. But get back on the right track so that you have a chance of winning. And apologizing for perfectly logical positions that 2/3 of the country agrees with is not the right track. It's a dumb track. And so all they'll do is slide further down.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what makes and made Tim Walz so appealing is that he was very plain spoken and very populist and very positive, right? And if you look at what Tim Walz said in this interview with Michael Strahan, it just sounded so convoluted and discombobulated. I actually couldn't really understand what he was trying to say amidst it all. Why is that? Because actually, this is a wildly popular position amongst Americans. In fact, if you just look at what 65%, right, of Americans want to abolish the Electoral College. Let's just look at what 65% of Americans want in terms of any policies. You think paid family leave would be part of it? Of course it would. Do you think ending our support of this genocidal set of actions that the state of Israel is engaging in would be there? Yes, it would. So that gets to this other big question, actually I wanna ask you both, which is, what is well, we know why there's a disconnection between the political system and the views of Americans, despite the fact that mainstream media often kind of perverts and corrupts our understanding of the broader country. But what is it that actually lends these folks to make these calculations? Like, why would these folks in this campaign make the calculation that him making sort of an off the cuff remark saying, yeah, the Electoral College, we know it's like not the right thing longer term? Like, why would that be such danger to their political campaign? Like, are they just playing scared? Is that what it is? Or is there some internal polling around this? I mean, it's okay if we don't get into the details. But I think they're
predisposed to fear. Yeah, I think that they're worried that anything they say will feed into a narrative that the Harris campaign is too radical. They're trying to change things. Of course, it's also a objectively good thing that Harris is now considered the change candidate.
Exactly.
It would seem like proposing a big change that 2/3 of the country likes might help you in that area. I'm assuming probably a good bit of corruption as well, but Cenk, what do you think?
No, I know why. One, look, not the brightest bulbs go into politics. I'm gonna keep it real with you. The guys who are at the top of their class go rob us all on Wall Street, right? And so these are the servants basically of the people on Wall Street. And the Wall Street guys give them money and then they do as they're told. And it's relevant here because why do they believe that these set of voters exist? They keep talking about Republicans in the suburbs. Republicans in the suburbs love Dick Cheney. They don't even love Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney, when he left office, was polling at 13%. How could you possibly think that that's a guy that you should wrap your arms around as they have for the last month? The reason they think that is because the donor class is almost all Republican light. Okay, they're either Republicans or Republican light. They're the donor class, hence they have an extraordinary amount of money where they can give away $50,000 and not blink an eye, $500,000, $5 million and not blink at all. So those folks think, oh my God, I love the wars that we started. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Oh, I love that we get unfair tax breaks. That's wonderful. I don't want you to do paid family leave. Paid family leave, to answer Ramesh's question, polls at 84%. Tim Walz passed it in Minnesota. It made him incredibly popular. That's one of the reasons why you picked Tim Walz. Why haven't they proposed paid family leave? It said 84%, 74% among Republicans, because their donors don't want them to. So if you're gonna be ruled by the donors and you can do dumb things like, well, all the donors I know love Dick Cheney and all the donors I know love the Electoral College, well, then you're gonna lose, and then you're gonna be thrilled with all the money that you raised, and you broke all the records with all the money you raised, just like Hillary Clinton did. And you're gonna tell that to your kids and your grandkids, because you're not gonna be able to tell them that you were the president. They cannot see straight. The donors surround them, and in their little bubble, they think, what? Everybody agrees. Anyone who doesn't agree must be a radical. Look, we've had one of our best-selling shirts that we've had for like 5 years is abolish the Electoral College. Yeah. Because you know why? True. Because every Democrat wants to buy it. That's Brett.
There it is. Yeah.
Okay, shoptyt.com. We'll have the link below. But seriously, telling your entire base we're betraying you and now we're pro-Electoral College so that we have to win by 5 points. I mean, your best case scenario is that you're preposterously stupid. Your worst case scenario is you surrounded yourself with so many Republican donors that you're never gonna win another election because you can't see straight. You're constantly trying to get 13 people in the country when there's millions of people who would vote for you if you did paid family leave, higher wages, etc.
And as a result, there's a lack of a clear vision, a clarified vision that this campaign has. It sounds like I would say the biggest obvious political critique we can raise about Harris right now, Harris and Walz, or Harris herself, is that she has unclear political vision, that she's changed her positions quite a few times. And this just adds to that, in my opinion.